Are electric-powered cars actually better for the environment than gasoline-powered cars? Well, in general, the answer is yes. But it's a little more complicated than that. There are two main factors to consider here: emissions from vehicle production and emissions from vehicle use. Surprisingly, electric cars require more carbon dioxide to produce than gasoline-powered cars. Now, why is this? This is due to the batteries in electric cars, which cause them to have 15 to 70% more emissions than gasoline-powered cars, depending on the size of the battery. For example, a 100 kilowatt-hour battery, like the one in a Tesla P100D, which emits about 10 metric tons of carbon dioxide, depending on the type of energy used in the battery factory, requires 3 times the emissions than a 30 kilowatt-hour battery, like the one in a Nissan Leaf, which emits about 3 metric tons of carbon dioxide. However, as electric vehicles become more common and manufacturing becomes more widespread, more batteries will be produced and circulating, and so battery recycling will become more efficient and will reduce the need to mine and extract new materials, therefore lessening the reliance on the production of new batteries. Now let's talk about emissions from vehicle use. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, the average gasoline-powered car in the U.S. creates about 5.2 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year. That's using the national average of 12,000 miles or 33 miles per day. Calculating vehicle use emissions from electric cars gets a little tricky since emissions from electric vehicles vary state to state because the energy sources in each state differ. So, in West Virginia, an electric vehicle will have much higher emissions than an electric vehicle in, say, Washington, since about 93% of West Virginia's energy source is from coal. Meanwhile, over 86% of Washington's energy is from clean energies like hydroelectric power. For our purposes, we will use the national average of 2.02 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions that an electric vehicle emits per year. Now let's take a look at the conclusions we can draw from our findings. Just based on emissions from vehicle production, we already know that an electric vehicle requires more carbon emissions than a gasoline-powered car does. However, after a little less than a year of driving, a 30 kilowatt-hour electric vehicle is already producing less emissions than a gasoline-powered car. And a 100 kilowatt-hour electric vehicle offsets its emissions in just under 3.25 years, which is much less than an electric car's useful life. Keep in mind, though, that these are just average estimates, as these numbers would vary depending on different factors such as what state you're driving your electric vehicle in. Again, as electric vehicles become more common, the need for battery recycling will increase, resulting in lower emissions, as well as many states pledging to make their energy grid cleaner in the coming years. So just keep these things in mind when you're out shopping for your next car. And finally, thanks for watching.